Why do Nigerians worship rich people?
What the fuck is you saying? I want to.
No, but for real, why do Nigerians admire the people who benefit the most from systems that harm them? Because of status anxiety, class signaling, and false consciousness. Let's discuss why Lapo babies worship the wealth that was stolen from them. But before we get into that, please make sure to like and subscribe because
she's back. Yeah.
So the YouTube channel Cruise drops a video called Guess the Nepo Baby. The premise is pretty simple. So you've got a bunch of people, you've got a jury of Nepo babies. The contestants, they have to convince the jury that they are Nepo babies. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a good video. It was truly entertaining. I laughed at some parts. And some parts, I didn't.
I'm a Air Force One type of girl. The soles and the width of the shoe. I know Nike ain't make those ones, my boy.
On the surface, it was just a game. But when a Nepo baby, someone who's had access, wealth, connection since birth, looks at someone pretending to be wealthy and dismisses them, that dynamic isn't neutral. The Nepo baby serves as a gatekeeper, deciding who belongs. And then the Lapo babies, well, they're performing kind of like auditioning or like vying for Nepo approval. When a poor person laughs at someone rich, it's seen as comedic. When the roles are reversed and someone's punching down, it's seen as poor taste. But when it's a game show and everyone's watching, well, then it's conditioning. Karl Marx identified this dynamic and gave it a name: false consciousness. I'm going to come back to that later on in the video because seriously, it deserves its own section. But first, I want to talk about, I'm going to call it class play. Kind of like race play, but you know, class play. But why class play is so entertaining? Because Jubilee did it in America and Cruise has done it now for a Nigerian audience, and clearly this format works. People are gripped. They want to guess. They want to know who are the haves and who are the have-nots. Class play content works really well because we all know what wealth is supposed to look like. We've all been taught the signals through social media, through pop culture, through the way Nigerian society and Western society too treats people depending on what they appear to have. The pleasure from watching class play content comes from pattern recognition. You see a wealth cue and you just think, yeah, I knew that one. Pierre Bourdieu, a French sociologist, came up with the term cultural capital. The idea that how you speak, how you carry yourself, what you reference, what schools you went to, all of those things function like a currency. And the people who already hold that currency can spot who doesn't have it almost instantly. Not because they're smarter, but because the system was built by people like them for people like them. There's a well-documented phenomenon called the halo effect. We perceive one positive trait in someone and then automatically assume everything else about them is positive too. Beauty does this, confidence does this, and wealth does this the most. And researchers actually tested this. They gave participants identical profiles, same qualifications, same personality descriptions. And then the only thing they changed was whether one person was described as wealthy or not. As you can guess, the wealthy profile was rated as more competent, more likable, and more hireable. So when we watch the Nepo babies assess the Lapo babies, we're watching two forces at play at the same time. Cultural capital gives the Nepo babies the ability to read and assess the performance, and then the halo effect means that they're seen as more credible, more authoritative, more trustworthy just because they're wealthy and that they were born into it, not because of anything they've earned. The Lapo babies aren't less interesting, less capable, less intelligent. They just weren't born with the cheat codes. And yet the entire game is built on the assumption that the Nepo baby lifestyle is the only one worth imitating. We've normalized class worship to the point that we're not even ashamed of doing it. We flat out worship wealth. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I don't want financial security, but that's something completely different, I feel. We treat wealthy people as if they're fundamentally different, as if they're more interesting, more worthy of respect or attention, regardless of how that wealth was acquired. There's this quote I like: "The poor don't see themselves as an exploited class, but as temporarily embarrassed millionaires." And that explains so much about our behavior around wealth. We don't identify with our actual position. We identify with where we think we're headed. And because we believe we're all on the way up, we treat people at the top with the reverence we hope to receive when we finally make it. It's aspirational deference, and it actually protects the people at the top from scrutiny, because why would you tear down a house that you plan on moving into? Alain de Botton called this status anxiety. It's the idea that our sense of self-worth is tied to where we sit in the social hierarchy. That anxiety drives everything. What we buy, what we post online, who we admire, and then critically, who we defend. In Nigeria, a significant portion of generational wealth is directly traceable to political corruption, government contracts, monopolistic business practices, and outright looting of public resources. So when Nigerians celebrate Nepo Babies, we're not just worshipping wealth. We're worshipping the proceeds of systems that have actively impoverished the country. The sociologist Daniel Jordan Smith calls this the Nigerian factor. Corruption in Nigeria is so pervasive that people are simultaneously its victims, its critics, and its participants. Nigerians don't lack moral clarity about corruption. They see it clearly. They condemn corruption openly, and then they navigate it, benefit from it when they can, and admire the people who've mastered it. Because in a system with no institutional safety net, wealth is a survival strategy. Now that doesn't make it right, but it makes it understandable, and that's why it's so difficult to dismantle. You can't tell people to stop admiring wealth and the people who have it when it's probably one of the only ways people are going to access opportunity in such a broken system. The worshipping of wealth isn't irrational, it's adaptive, thus making it so insidious. George Orwell wrote that money worship had become perhaps the only real religion left to us. And it's funny because Nigeria is such a deeply religious country. And yeah, it's obvious that our number one religion is money. Money determines how we treat people, who we respect, who we listen to, who we will marry our children off to. Money is the number one religion in Nigeria, and it's a byproduct of rampant corruption, poorly distributed wealth, and poverty. And then when people hear things like prosperity gospel, it just reinforces that idea. When your pastor rolls into church in his Rolls Royce and tells you that it's evidence of God's favor, wealth stops being something you question. It's now become something that you also pray for, because you too, you want that Rolls Royce. The source of the wealth doesn't matter because Baba on top, God validated it. Corruption gets laundered by spirituality and the church. And if you question the wealth, then you're questioning God's plan. So now you've got a system where wealth is socially rewarded, psychologically compelling, and spiritually justified. So as a result, and simply put, we are sycophants for money and the people who possess it. I secretly reckon that everyone wants to be a Nepo baby, and I think if I was born into insane wealth, I probably wouldn't be making videos like this. No, actually, I would like to think that I'd still care, but you just never know. You never know. We never know if we're good people. We don't know what our morals are because we've never been put in situations to actually put those morals to the test, you know? And by the way, I'm not saying that every rich person has questionable morals, but I'm speaking out people, you know, who are corrupted, obviously. And even me right now, I'm making a video about class dynamics. Like I said, I too am in the system. I am a participant. I am a British-born Nigerian with a pretty neutral Southern English accent, talking about cultural capital when my accent is cultural capital. I know what my accent would have formed me in Nigeria, even here in the UK. So my point is that we're all complicit in one way or another. And that's what makes it rather frustrating, because being aware doesn't free you from it. I mentioned Karl Marx before, with his term false consciousness. He said that people most harmed by a system can be so thoroughly socialized into it that they defend it, perpetuate it, and don't even recognize they're doing it. And modern psychology confirms what Karl Marx thought of over 2 centuries ago? Psychologists call it system justification. People are motivated to see the existing social order as fair and legitimate even when they're disadvantaged by it. Because if the system is unfair, then your position in it isn't your fault, but also isn't in your control. So people just accept it. They even defend that hierarchy. They admire people at the top. They convince themselves that the wealth is earned, that the access is deserved, and that the game is fair. Because the alternative is admitting that the game is rigged and that you have to wake up every day and still play it. So we play the game and we big and hype ourselves up because we all want to pass. We all want to be seen as Nepo babies to a certain extent because the system says that the more wealthy, the more cultured, the more middle or upper class you come across, well, that's progress in life. You're winning in life when really it's not. It's just compliance. Now, I'm not saying any of this from a place of moral superiority. It's not about who's rich. It's about why do we think that rich people are automatically worthy. Until we stop treating prosperity like it's a personality trait, admiration will keep blinding us to corruption, because nobody cares how you amass that wealth. They just want to know how they can make it too, and that's sad. Make sure you like, comment, share and subscribe, please. Thanks. Bye.